Hi, I'm Hunter from Battlefield Sports. In this video, I'm going to be answering one of your most common questions. What games are good to run? Here at Battlefield Sports, we have several recommended games which pairs with our recommended options list, and each of these has their own benefits. Tailoring your game choices for the groups that you have on the day can make their event absolutely spectacular. That being said, it is a good idea to have a few standard games that you run, so you know exactly what you can do even if you haven't got a lot of details. So for example, at our local location, we typically run a team deathmatch game and a hotspots game. From there, our staff may change things up to reflect the needs of a particular group that we have on that day. Having these standard games allows us to set things up prior to everyone arriving, so it's all ready to go once they're ready. Of course, we can then adapt as needed as the day and the session goes on. Before you start setting up for your next event, consider these 4 factors: how long each group will be playing for, where they will be playing, how old they are, and what the weather is like. Starting with factor 1, the game length. If you are preparing to run a series of games at a fair or a fete or something like that, where each player is probably only going to play for about 5 minutes, which is not very long, you want to make sure that you are running very simple games, ones that can be played over and over again with different groups and do it so very quickly. If you're running an event where you are expecting players to participate in multiple games over the session or the day or even a series of days, you want to actually consider running a few different games. For us, our local field, we run a session typically with 3 or 4 games played over about 2 hours, and we run 2 different game modes. So we play 2 of one type, change it up, and we play another 2. And the reason why is because things can get a little bit boring if you're only playing the same game over and over again. Sometimes though, we have what we call junior sessions for very young players, and they only really need 2 games, and so we actually just run the same game. So they play one side, swap ends, play another side, and then they're all done. Now, factor 2 is the location. Consider where the players are actually going to be playing. For example, when running indoors, you want to discourage running as much as possible. So you don't want to pick a game that incentivizes players to run a lot. In fact, if you can pick a game that they don't have to run really at all, that's even better. Thirdly, think about the age range of the players. Elementary school students generally want simplicity, while high school students want a challenge. Oftentimes though, you might find that your group is a bit of a mixed bag, and you'll need to factor that in as well. And what do I mean by that? Well, for example, you might have a 13-year-old's birthday party booked in. Well, there could be younger siblings, older cousins, probably a few parents are going to want to join in as well. So you've got a wide age range there, even though the birthday person is 13. For that kind of event, you want to choose something that is going to work for every player, regardless of their skill level. After all, everyone is there to have fun. And the final factor to consider is the weather. Here in Australia, our summers get very hot. Now, of course, we make sure that players get a break between each game, but we also actively choose missions that involve a lot less running. That way, our players are probably going to make it to the end of the session, even on a very hot day. We choose games where players, if they choose to run, they can, but moving slow and sneakily around the battlefield will also win them the game. Now, while you keep all these factors in mind, I'm going to run through the different options of games that you could run with our system. Keep in mind that depending on your theme, some of the missions may have alternative names in a different theme. Starting off with Team Deathmatch. Now, in the Battlefield Tag theme, this is actually called Team Elimination. Now, in this case, the name change actually does point out an important difference. So when you're running a game of team elimination, it's going to be very simple because there are no supply crates. The aim of the game is very straightforward, and that is to deactivate the other team. This is the simplest game you could run, and it's great for fairs and for groups where the majority of the players are under the age of 9. Now, Team Deathmatch, played in the Battlefield Royale theme, has the same goal, which is killing the other players. However, you'll want to introduce the supply crates. And the reason why is because once players hit the age of about 10, they start thinking, hey, if I hang back here in a really good hiding spot and the other players just come to me, then I'm going to be able to get a lot of points for my team, and I'm not going to expose myself to as much fire, so I'm going to die less. And once both teams work that out, no one's going anywhere, and it makes for a very boring game. And people are not coming to laser tag to play a boring game. So if you are running Team Deathmatch for players that are about 10 or older, you will need something on the field to encourage them to move forward, otherwise it's not going to work. So what we use is supply crates. That being said, even with supply crates, Team Deathmatch is a very simple game. So it's great if you're looking for simplicity. As well, it's not that fast paced, so you don't have to run, you can sneak around, so it's great for those times when you don't want players to run. Alright, moving on to our next mission, Hotspots. This is a fantastic game because it works for a lot of different groups. At its heart, this game is very simple. When the box lights up, you tag it and you get a point. The team who scores the most number of points will win. Easy. But is it? Well, there is the complexity factor of the fact that there is usually, you want to put out at least 3, maybe 4 hotspot boxes. Hotspots is a great game for middle school and high school students because not only does it draw them into the battle, but it also challenges them. To ensure they get the most number of points, players should actually work as a team in groups of maybe 2 or 3. One player watches the box and waits for it to light up, they get the point, but they also need someone to defend them, right? Because they're not looking around at the battlefield, so they need to know that they have someone backing them up and fending off the opposition. And of course, if players get too distracted by actually trying to get the other team and no one's looking at the box, well, no points are being scored and they're probably going to lose. Now, one great thing about hotspots is because there is a delay on when the box lights up, there is less need to be constantly running. So players can move up to the box and then they wait there, they defend that position, but they don't have to run back and forth between lots of different boxes. As well, because there is that delay, even if they get killed / deactivated, depending on the theme, they don't necessarily have to run all the way back to their base and come back as soon as possible. Obviously, the faster they do that, the better, but it isn't a requirement for this game. An even better factor about the Hotspots game is it scales really, really well. If you've got lots of players, all you need to do is add a few more hotspots. Okay, now we're up to mission option number 3. Now this one does have a different name depending on the theme. So it's either capture and hold or domination. You can call it whichever one suits that group or your business. Regardless, this game works exactly the same and it is an absolute classic. Now, unlike the previous 2 games that I just talked about, this game does involve a moderate amount of running. And the reason why is because players are drawn in to the center of the field to control the objective. However, if your location and the weather suits this game, then it's really good for a wide age range of players. So younger players can be told very simply, if the box is not flashing your team's color, make sure you shoot it. And they generally get that. They're pretty good on shooting it and they're happy to score some points for their team. And then of course, older players love fighting over the objective, and it's a lot of action. It's really fun. It's just good for those particular days where it's cool enough and you can encourage plenty of running. Okay, so the next mission is called Heist, and this is a step up in complexity from Domination. I love this game. If you've got some players who are raring to go and they are ready to run, this is the game for them. It is also a fantastic option for corporate groups for a few different reasons. One, they absolutely love fighting over money. But additionally, the gameplay itself encourages a variety of different play styles, which is going to suit different personalities and fitness levels. In a game of Heist, it's really useful to have some players sniping, some players rushing in, collecting cash, and a few others on defense. However, all that being said, due to the complexity, you generally don't want to run this game with players under the age of 10. Another recommended game is called Capture the Flag. There are two variations of this game. One uses 2 boxes, and that's suitable for sessions that have up to about 12 players. And then if there's more than that, you'll want to go with the 4-box version. Now, in the 2-box version, the team's flag box also will respawn them, so their base is all in one box. Whereas the 4-box version, what you're looking at is the team has 2 boxes assigned to them. One is a flag box, one is the respawn box. And so they're a bit further away, and that means they have to sort of retreat in order to get respawned, and it just makes things less crowded in and around the flag box. Still, crowding is a factor, and this game is probably not suitable for groups with more than, say, 30 players. Now, Electronic Capture the Flag is a game that involves a lot of running. If you've got a group that is ready to go, they want to run, maybe they're a sports team and they are not tiring out from the basic games, this game is great for them. Due to the multi-step process that it takes to actually capture and score a point, capture the flag, score a point, we don't recommend this game for players under the age of 9, so 9 and up, you're good to go. You also just want to bear in mind the battlefield, so where they're playing. You want a space that has a lot of open paths for them to run down, because they will run. Okay, so next up we have another 2-box game similar to Team Elimination and the basic Capture the Flag. So this is called Blitz, and it's basically a simpler version of Capture the Flag. So if you were thinking this group would really suit Capture the Flag, but they're 8 years old, Blitz might be the way to go. I will say that you want to run this game with all the players of a very similar age group and standard. Having a large mix doesn't work for Blitz. Now, the great thing about Blitz is the scoring is very simple. So all they have to do is tag the other team's box to score a point. Players get the gist of that very quickly, and then you can get going with the game. Staying with the theme of simpler versions of the other games I've already mentioned, we have Bullseye, which is basically a simpler version of Domination. Players score a point when they shoot the objective. So all they have to do is keep shooting that objective and they'll get lots of points, and the team that has the most points will win. And that's really straightforward. Great for little kids. I will say that if the kids are older than, say, 9, 10, go with Domination. Bullseye is really great for very young kids. They love blasting, but once they get to about the age of 10, it does start getting a little bit boring. They don't really want to be shooting the box, they want to be shooting the other players, and it's not going to work. But Bullseye is really fun for the 7, 8-year-olds, so definitely give it a go. Second to last of our recommended games is called Battle Royale, and this is our slowest, sneakiest game. It is really good for those days where it's super hot and players need constant breaks, but it doesn't suit that many groups. And the reason why is because there's no respawns, the mission can feel really brutal. If you have players that are obviously going to struggle in comparison to everyone else, do not run this game. Another factor to keep in mind is that Battle Royale requires the most amount of density of any of the games. And the reason why is because this game really does focus on hiding. The more hiding spots and the better those hiding spots are, the more this experience will be enjoyable. So just keep that in mind when you're selecting this game. That all being said, for the right group, Battle Royale is a fantastic game, and it is especially great if you've got a private event and you want to announce a winner, hand out a trophy. Running a free-for-all survival Battle Royale game to end off the session is a fantastic option, and it will get you a winner for the trophy. Okay, so lastly we have Rush. This mission is fairly complex and advanced. It offers a challenge to the players, and it's the perfect mission to bring to an event where the group wants something that will build teamwork and encourage them to strategize. An example of these sort of events is a high school leadership day or a corporate team building event. The Rush game is best played on a long, thin battlefield because each of the objectives moves along the battlefield and you are able to use the entire space. Now you know all the different recommended games you could run and when to run them. If you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments. I would also love to hear what your favorite game to run is and why. See you next time.